Welcome back to Shit Talk Fridays. I'm Jeanna.
And I'm Ivo.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday, Jeanna. This is a special Friday today.
It is a fucking special Friday,
Yes,
ladies
it
and
is.
gentlemen. And if you don't know, today is Ivo and I's 100th episode doing Shit Talk Fridays. We are celebrating this episode by doing something that we thought would be fun. But before we get into that, I wanted to say, did you think that we would get this far? Or did you think that we would go this far?
You know, I want to say that I went into this venture of ours kind of like I went into our relationship, where I wasn't counting the days that went by and the weeks and the months, and I was just living it. And that's kind of how I feel like, I've been going about this, is showing up every week, living through the episodes, kind of just more of them. They've just been more about like therapeutic experiences that we've had, just us sitting down and having conversations that we normally do, but we're recording them. And that's kind of what it's been like for me. How about you? Did you feel like we'd make it to 100 episodes?
I mean, if you know me, you know that I don't give up easily.
Yeah.
So I was very determined to make this something that we could find longevity in. But there were definitely times throughout this journey of this show where I definitely felt like, yeah, I may just pack it up.
The funny thing is like, I wish I could go about many things in my life the way I went about this episode. Like,
This episode?
Well, at this show, sorry. When you embark on something, you really kind of just want to focus at the tasks and just show up daily and do tasks and keep your head down. And before you know it, you pick your head up and you've completed this, immense amount of work. When you focus on the goal and you're like constantly looking up and focusing on a goal, it ends up being like a pie in the sky. And it becomes almost difficult to attain because you're kind of just looking at this large, thing that you want to achieve, when it's the steps that you take that get you there. And so, just showing up every day and kind of just doing the episodes. Before I knew it, here we are at 100 episodes. It kind of like, it went like that for me, just focusing on the little things that we do.
It definitely didn't feel like that for me.
No, it didn't. It doesn't even feel like we did 100 episodes. For me, it doesn't.
Yeah, no, it feels like 100 episodes for
Okay.
me.
All right. I mean, you know what? I'll give you credit. You do a lot of the back end work, so I can see why it probably feels like that.
Yeah, I definitely think that we have a different feel when it comes to what the show does for us and to us. So I could see why you would say what you just said. It definitely feels different for me. I'm still very happy in the place that we are. So with that being said, let's get into today's episode, our 100th episode, where we decided we were going to revisit some of the most controversial videos and topics that we have done on Shit Talk Fridays. And when I went back and looked at some of these episodes, what I will say is I was surprised by the episodes that took off.
Right?
But that being said, it makes a lot of sense because the common theme between all of the episodes that took off it was when we talked about things that had a male and female
Point of
view.
Yeah.
And for us to speak on it separately and together, I think a lot of people enjoyed hearing our different perspectives. And in addition to that, us kind of giving information into some of those topics in a way where it was, one, relatable, and two, was we tied in our own personal experiences.
Yeah.
So one of our first episodes that...
Wait, pause for a second.
Yeah,
Before we
sure.
get into that, can we
Oh,
cheers?
shit, yeah. And today we're drinking champagne to celebrate. I totally forgot about
You're
it.
pulling one of my moves.
I got excited.
That's my move right there.
We're drinking a little bit of champagne in celebration of our 100th episode. So cheers, Ivo.
Cheers.
And cheers to all of our viewers and listeners.
Yes.
We wouldn't be here without you. Thank you.
Very
And
nice.
yes, I'm drinking this shit out of a straw
Very
because
nice.
I have on lipstick that I'm not trying to get all over this cup. But anyway, so one of our first videos, well, not one of our first, but one of the videos that we had, and we chose to pick 4 videos out of our most controversial videos that kind of, decided to go viral. And a lot of these videos were getting these comments that we have read over the past 100 episodes from TikTok. That's where we get a lot of our comments from and where we have the most followers. So obviously we get the most information. So episode 82, we spoke about lies that men tell. There was over 130 comments on this one video that was posted, and it was a video featuring you where you said that men will lie to women in the act of sex by saying, just let me put the tip in.
Yeah, it's
Wait, hang on. Before you even get into it.
okay.
When you said this, I remember in the episode feeling kind of uncomfortable by what you had said. And when I went and posted the video of you saying this, exactly what I was kind of feeling is one of the comments that was a common thread. And that was, there were a lot of women saying that this was coercion.
Yeah.
But then on the opposite end of that, there were a lot of men that were saying that it worked.
And women.
Yes, there were women, but I will say when it came to this has worked for me,
Yeah.
there was a lot of men.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a lies that men tell. You know? So yeah, of course, a lot more men are going to identify with it. But you know, I was actually pretty shocked at the responses that were coming around, because I didn't really think about all of the times that something like that happened and it wasn't innocent and it wasn't like what I experienced. And so that was a bit of an eye opener for me, and it gave me a newfound respect for a lot of the people that went through something like that and it wasn't the experience that I described.
Because tell me a little bit about what type of experience you were describing in that scenario.
In my scenario, it was, you know, two consenting people in an intimate act. Well, not yet there in an intimate act, but, you know, very much into foreplay, you know, touching, feeling, a lot of things going on, just not sex yet. Maybe they, you know, at that moment it hadn't gotten there. We were still trying to initiate the first time. And I may feel like this may be it, you know, where I want to initiate it. She may not be 100% there yet, because, you know, women, it needs to feel right, you know, in order for them to feel it. So, you know, I may suggest like a joking, like, you know, just let me put the tip in. And fortunately, I mean, like, surprisingly, you know, it works. You know, they'll be like, you know, all right. And but in my defense, that's exactly what I would do, right? That's exactly what I would do. And I would wait for the hook on the back of the foot and to push in, because that's what I would want that to be initiated by her. Like, it wouldn't be like, oh, I would put it in and then go all the way in. No, I put it in just like I said it is. And then if she wanted more, she'd have to ask for it.
Okay. Has there ever been a situation where that's what you asked for and then she didn't want to continue?
No.
Okay.
Every single time that I ever went there, you know, it was like, okay, I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. Now you have to initiate the rest, you know. And those were my experiences, and that's how it was for me every time. And I never even, nobody that I ever spoke to or that I knew ever had a conversation with me along the lines that, oh, you know, I said that to her and then I just went in, you know. So it was a sobering moment for me when I read through the comments and I saw other people's experiences. And so now, you know, like, it was like I said, I got a newfound respect for it.
Yeah, because I definitely think that there were a lot of women in the comments that were making you see it from their perspective.
Yeah.
And there were women that were saying things like, I've let this happen so that the man would leave me alone and I felt safe.
Yeah, it seems that in other situations it was more of a peer pressure type of situation where the person was not taking no for an answer.
Yeah.
And, you know, that wasn't the case for me. I was very much, my style of dating women and getting into these intimate situations with women was, I would always want the woman to be the pursuer. So that way I felt invited, and I knew that, you know, whatever was going on wasn't something that I tried to like coerce or initiate, like you know, like a lot of these women were saying.
Yeah. Yeah, you were replying to a lot of the comments saying that that is a young man's game. That that was
Yes, it was
something that you
definitely
did in your
something. Yeah, it
youth.
was something I did as a kid, and quickly, never had to do it again.
Yeah.
So because then you learn as a as you grow up and you get to know women, you understand and you're able to do things that don't require you to even have to say those words.
Yeah.
You can act in certain ways where she's very clear, what she wants and her intentions, and those words are never even a part of the conversation ever again.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad that you made that clear because I
yeah,
remember when you said that on the episode, I remember being like, actually, I really don't think that you are seeing
yeah,
it the way that I see it. And there was actually a commenter that we had on YouTube that said something to the extent of, Gina, I'm glad that you brought it up to him that this is a scenario that may happen where a woman is actually feeling unsafe
yeah,
and she's letting the man do this so that she can get out of that situation.
yeah,
And she was applauding me for bringing that to the light for you to see, because a lot of the times men kind of live in their man bubble and they don't really understand the things that afflict women when it comes to those type of sexual scenarios.
mm-hmm.
So I was actually really happy that you took it and learned from it, because there are many times where people will have that type of situation arise where people are telling them in the comments, wow, this is definitely not what you think it is, and they're like totally refuting what people are saying and not even trying to see it in their perspective at all. And that wasn't you, and I was really happy about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would never ever try to deny anyone's experience, because I know that my experience doesn't dictate every single experience that's happened on Earth. So, and I'm well aware of that. So.
Yeah. So let's go on to the next one, and it was episode 78, and I would say episode 78 is actually our most popular episode out of all of our 100 episodes, and it's dating as a single parent. And I can say that that's how I knew that there was kind of like this thread of commonality amongst our episodes, because I was at one time a single parent and you dated me. So that episode, like, we had some real world life experience to talk about. So there was a video that I put out on social media where you said, and I remember you saying this in the episode, and as you said it, I was sitting there thinking to myself, the women are gonna love this, right? So you said in a video that there's a term that's referred to single parents that have children, that their children can be considered baggage when dating as a single parent. But you wanted parents to know that their children were their most valuable possession.
Yes.
And never let anyone make you feel that your children are anything less than that.
Absolutely.
And I remember the comments got flooded. I think we had over like 300 comments when it came to this particular video of people really thanking you for saying that, because of the fact there were a lot of women that commented that they concurred that that term had been applied to their situation. And I will say that there were definitely more women that were saying, this is something that I have been told and have felt when it comes to me dating as a single parent. But on the opposite end, there were a lot of fucking men that were saying still the same shit, that yes, these children are considered baggage because they bring no value to the relationship.
And that's a purely perspective statement. It's entirely based on how you look at it. If you want to be the type of guy that sees it as a negative, sees it as more work, sees it as more draining, then of course, it's not going to be a positive experience. And the way that I looked at it, and I suggest that any man who decides to date a woman who has kids to look at it, is the opportunity to show a mother that that she does deserve a second chance. And she does deserve to be treated like any other woman that a man would look at that doesn't have kids. And not only that, but she is that special that a man would consider loving her and her children. And I think that in that circumstance, given that environment, for a woman to have a second chance with a man like that makes it even more special to meet someone that now loves her and her children. I mean, if I was a woman, to me, that man would be more than it would be. That man would be, what's the word I'm looking for? He would just be more special than anything that I've ever met. Because prior to that man, the man that I was with, and I'm speaking from a woman's perspective, right? Prior to that man, the man that I was with, it didn't work out with him. And that's the man that I had my children with. And here I am, I meet another man who I don't even have children with, who miraculously falls in love with me and my kids.
Yeah.
Like, what's that say about that man? You know, how special is he? How cut from a different cloth is this person? You know, so I look at it that way. I think that it's, you know, for a woman that runs into a situation like that, they end up running into the exception to the rule. You know, the rule is men look at women who have kids as baggage. So the exception to the rule is a man who doesn't see it that way and takes it on, you know, like it's nothing.
Let me ask you this. Since the men were saying that children are baggage and that they don't bring value to the relationship, do you think that women that have children, do the children bring value to the man in the relationship? Is there value in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's value in it because it's making the man a better person. You know, the man is now having to not only love the woman, but open his heart up to the children, which is a bigger thing than most men would do. You know, that in itself makes that man a better person. Why? Because he's stepping up into a position that a lot of men wouldn't even look twice at. So
I'm sorry to interrupt, but when I think about that, can you speak a little bit from your own personal experience? Like, what value do you feel like the boys brought you to your life? Because I feel like I can think of like a few.
Well,
is there something like in particular? Because I do feel like people are still going to be like, yeah, that's not really valuable.
You know, they taught me how to be a parent. You know, they taught me how to love unconditionally for children that weren't biologically mine. They really set the tone for when Ava came along. You know, what was right and what was wrong as far as, you know, parenting goes. And, you know, they gave me the opportunity to get to know them each individually and build a relationship that I wouldn't have with any other child. I wouldn't have with any other kid. Like I have the relationship that I have between these two boys doesn't exist with any other two boys in my life. So that in itself is, to me, it's more than words. It's invaluable.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's like, I can't put a price on that.
Yeah. It's priceless.
It's priceless.
Yeah. I've actually found myself at times almost kind of jealous of the relationship that you have with them, because I think I've said this before. There's like a bro code and I watch you guys do your bro code shit and I'm just like, I want to play too. You know, and that's a relationship that you develop with them on your own. And I see such value in that for you and for them. I see sometimes when you have conversations with, especially Anthony, our older one, because now he's a man. You kind of light up when you talk to him. You know, you guys have this like camaraderie between each other. And when you're giving him advice about how to conduct himself in the world as a young man, I watch you light up. And that's me looking at you from like the outside. And you probably don't even see that. But I'm so proud of that relationship that you have and your ability to share like good advice with him.
Yeah, you know, it's
wait, and then real quick, I love when he comes back to you and tells you the stuff that you gave him advice on and it's worked for him, because he does that.
Those are some of my proudest moments. And so it's come full circle now.
Yeah.
Where, you know, at the beginning, there's a lot of trying to guide them in the right direction, but yet they're trying to become their own person, and so you deal with that and trying to navigate through those situations and giving them their space to be individuals, but at the same time trying to guide them the best that they can and hope that they take everything that you say into consideration so that they can make the best decisions in their life. But it doesn't always work out like that, and so you kind of got to let them make their own decisions. But eventually, as they mature and they start to realize and look back and think about some of the things that maybe, you know, as a parent you were suggesting, and actually implement those into their lives, those are the proud moments, because now you not only are you realizing that they're maturing and they're becoming wiser, but they're actually becoming wise enough to realize that you did have their best interest, and they know that now, and they're okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, and then so it's almost like you see a part of yourself in them.
Yeah.
You know, which is, I think, what every parent wants, right? And their
Yeah.
kids.
I trust me, I see it.
Yeah.
I see it all the time.
So I mean, how can you not? I mean, I can see how a lot of men don't value that, but to me, that's the most valuable part of the whole thing. Like,
yeah. There's even times where I'm like, can you please tell them, because I feel like they listen to you more because you're a man, right? But I see myself in them, but I see you in them as well. You know, the way that they go about things. Our younger son, Mateo, today's actually his birthday.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Mateo.
Mateo.
And he just released his first EP. He released 3 songs. He's releasing another 2 later on this evening. And I just want to give him a shout out. But what I will say is, one of the things that he can credit to Ivo is his taste in fucking music.
There you go.
He loves him some old school hip hop because of Ivo.
Yeah, I used to take him around in my car. I had this. I mean, I still have it, but it's not like road ready at the moment. But I used to have a Honda, and it was all hooked up with the system in it. And I would go pick him up, and I, like, same way that my brother did to me when I was a kid, where I grew up listening to a lot of the music that he listened to. I made sure that, you know, I ran Mateo through the whole catalog of all of the great shit that I was listening to when I was growing up. And it's
bittersweet.
It's bittersweet, yeah. But it's great to see him. It's great to see that he absorbs so much of it. You know?
He definitely does. That is literally his forte, is that type of music. Yeah. I rarely ever catch him listening to like the music, and I'm referring to like hip hop. I rarely hear him listening to like artists from current, unless they're like J. Cole or something like that. And you know, that comes from me. But let's go on to the next one, and then I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay.
And this one was episode 79. Again, this was single dads versus single moms. Again, another episode, and this was the episode right after 78, when we realized that people wanted to hear from us more about being a single parent. Mm-hmm. But what I realized in episode 78, there was definitely like a disparity between being a single mother and a single father. So we talked a lot about that in episode 79. And there was a video that we put out that in this video, I was saying something, and I spoke about how single mothers are expected to do it all, and they're given a lot of grief when they don't meet up to like these standards of being like a perfect mother. And fathers are given more of grace when it comes to being a single father. You know, a lot of people will come up to them and say things like, you know, look at you. You're doing so well. You're doing a good job.
Yeah, and they're not scrutinized as much as a mother would be.
Yeah. So when I put that out there, there were a lot of fathers that chimed in, single fathers, and they were saying that they didn't want that grace. They didn't want that empathy. They wanted to be seen as single fathers that were doing their job as a father. They were parenting.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't want that fucking pat on the back. And then there were a lot of mothers that also chimed in the comment section and said that they were struggling with this. They were struggling with meeting these unrealistic expectations, and they were experiencing burnout. And I remember reading this and having such empathy for these mothers and for these fathers for 2 reasons. Because being with you and us raising our family together, we function as parents. Even though you're a father and I'm a mother, there's nothing in our household that is like gender assigned. So when it comes to the caring of our kids, it's not like I do the cooking, cleaning, bathing. These things happen equally between us.
Right. There's no roles. We just do what needs to get done.
We just do. And it's never like, oh, can you watch the kids, or can you those conversations never even happen.
Yeah.
There's even times where like I want to go somewhere and I'm like, hey, I'm going here, see you later, and I'm out. I will let you know. There's never an issue. So I understand when the fathers were saying they didn't want that empathy, because they just wanted to be seen as parents equally as the mothers. I got the feeling that they felt like people felt sorry for them in their situations. Why do you think that people are more likely to have this like empathy towards single fathers than they are single mothers?
Well, you got to keep in mind, right? There's a whole society of men that are just, so deep into their masculinity that anything that has to do with cleaning, cooking, taking care of a child, which is quote unquote identified with being a woman, it almost threatens their masculinity. So that's, I feel like that men that kind of like go about life like that and that are with women, they really want to keep that line divided. They want to stay on the masculine side of things. So when it comes to the children, they're like, no, here, you take the kids. No, you do this. That's your role. You're a woman, and anything that man would do almost threatens their masculinity. And I feel like that because of that, and it exists so largely amongst men, that when you see a man, playing both roles, you see a man in the subway, which, as a matter of fact, I just saw a video on this today, as a matter of fact, where there was somebody recording a man. He was on a subway. He had a stroller, and he had two babies in the stroller. And he's standing. He's not even sitting. He's standing, and he's sitting, and he's shaking the bottle. The baby, he's got the one baby on the bottom, and the baby's crying, and he's like mixing the formula as he's standing. And then he, and the person's recording the whole time. Like, this is like, it's this amazing thing. I can see why, it would be, because anyone that doesn't see that as often in their life, it's something that's like, wow, I didn't even know that. That's just amazing. So, he just takes the cloth and he puts the cloth on the baby's chest so that he could rest the bottle, pops the bottle in the baby's mouth, and the baby shuts up, and he goes and starts attending to the baby on top. And the video ends. But that is a clear-cut case of what you're talking about, right? This person was highlighting this man doing something that if a woman was doing, otherwise, it wouldn't be something to be noted otherwise. That it's expected of a woman. And I think that because that dynamic exists, you have women that when they see, or a person, when they see a man acting that way, they almost empathize with him, or they want to congratulate him, or they want to applaud him. It used to happen to me all the time.
Yeah, I remember you would tell me some of the stories of when you would go places with Ava when she was under a year, and people would be shocked.
They'd be looking around wondering where you are.
Yeah.
Where's the mother? She's she's not here. Like, what am I, fucking chopped liver? Like, I got this. And I've had several conversations with mothers that, once they see that, like, I'm there because I want to be there, and this is my choice, and I'm choosing to have my baby here and without the mother, then they would reveal to me, like, wow, like, my husband would never. I could never. I can't go anywhere by myself. I always either have to have the kid with me, or if we're with my husband, I have to be with my husband. Like, I always have to tend to the child at some point. And I'm like, well, couldn't fucking tell me I can't take my baby nowhere without her mother.
Evo was trying to leave the hospital with our daughter, like, the first day she was born. What? He was like, "This is mine now. Goodbye."
Yeah, I was ready, and you know what? And I
just want to say though, Evo, some of the most masculine, sexy, like loving, caring men I've ever met in my life are men that are just like you. Men that do and be with their children without a fucking second thought. I can name like 5 men right off the top of my head right now that are exceptional fathers and do parenting just as beautifully as their wife or their counterpart without even a fucking second thought. And some of the most dickheadish asshole men that I've ever met in my life are the men that you're describing, are these men that have this toxic masculinity and they really believe in these like strong gender roles.
Yeah.
Where they're not willing to put themselves in the shoes of the woman and do things for the family and for the home because it's a woman's job.
Yeah. I mean, as far as kids go, speaking for myself, I can definitely say that the fact that, you know, we chose to have Ava, you know, like it was something that I was ready to do. And when it came, I was like my boots were strapped up and I was ready to go.
Yeah, because you had like, how many years had we been together?
So we were together like 10 years. 10 years before we had Ava. So we raised the boys for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, with
was
the,
it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
10
it was 10 years.
Yeah.
And it was always with the idea after like 3.5, 4 years, you know, we kind of just decided like, hey, you know, we're not going to not try to have a kid, but we're not going to try to have a child. You know, if it happens, it happens. We're ready for it now. Yeah. And whenever life brings us another child, that'll be the moment when, you know, we deal with that. We cross that bridge.
Yeah, I just feel like it was second nature to you. You did so many things with the boys without me.
Yeah.
There were many times in the beginning of our relationship where I worked more than you did, and I've said this previous, that you spent many weekends without me with the boys, going to the beach, going to the park. You couldn't tell Ivo that he wasn't gonna have fun with kids with or without me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always loved kids.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something that I was against, and it also helped that I ended up dating someone that had a child, and it really opened my eyes to.
And that person wasn't me, by the way.
No, it wasn't you, but it was the first person that I dated that had a child. And there was something to that relationship that really opened my eyes to dating someone and getting to know and accepting their child as well. You know, it's not for everybody, but man, if you can do it, it's a wonderful experience. It was for me.
Yeah. So the second part of that I was going to talk about real quick, and then I'm going to hand it over to you, was mothers talking about experiencing burnout, trying to meet that unrealistic expectation. And man, could I identify with that. I at one point actually had to scale back at my commitment at work because I was experiencing severe burnout. I was working 40 to 50 plus hours a week. And while I was doing that, I was managing dropping off, picking up, you know, household chores. And this is before you and I became like a serious item. I'm talking about the years where I was a single parent. Yeah. And at the same time, I was also raising my younger brother, who's 7 years younger than me. So I was like 22 years old with a 14-year-old, a 1-year-old.
You're raising 3 kids.
Yeah, I was raising 3 children. Yeah. And I was fucking on the edge. I look back upon those years and I have no fucking clue how sometimes I did the shit that I did. I just think that I was on fucking autopilot most of the time. In the same sense, I look back and I say, I thank myself for having the strength to persevere through that situation, because there were so many situations that were so hard for me to go through, and I was going through them by myself. So I really empathize with these mothers and sympathize with them in the same regard, because I know what that fucking feels like.
Yeah.
So I don't think that mothers want the sympathy from other people. I think they just want people to understand that it is difficult and we shouldn't be held to a different standard as mothers. We should just be looked at as, this is a person that's really trying to do their best. Now, if the mother or the father is a piece of shit, that's a whole nother story. But if you see a parent really striving to fucking do their best, don't knock a person when they're down, you know?
Yeah.
So that was episode 79. So I'm going to hand it.
Before you move on from there, right? I want to point something out.
Okay.
So it's funny that you mentioned that you were on the brink of like collapse. That lifestyle ended up being something that when I met you was an instant attraction to me, right? And the reason I say that is because for someone like myself who spent a decent amount of my childhood without my parents, right? I was separated from my parents. When I met you and I saw that you were single, raising 2 children and your brother, you instantly gave me the feeling that if we were to have a child together and something were to happen to me, I know that that child would never leave your side. And you instantly gave me that I would have a child with this woman. Instantly. You know, so here you are breaking your hump, and then unbeknownst to you, there's someone looking at you finding value in that.
Ladies, you hear that?
So,
sometimes having kids mean that man, see, he want to have babies with you.
Just stick to your guns. That's all it is, you know. Just be you, you know, if that's who you are. And, you know, here you are, you were probably beating yourself up at that time.
Oh, man. I remember having several moments of pure fucking desperation.
Yeah.
I remember times sitting in my car crying before I had to go and do something because I felt so defeated. I was tired. I could talk about that for days, what that felt like, those years being by myself and really trying to figure out the best life for me and my boys at the time and my brother, which was that's a whole nother story.
You fucking held it down, Gina, that's for sure.
Thanks. So please tell me about some of our other viral videos.
So in episode 64, we spoke about secrets that men and women keep.
I remember this episode.
Yeah, in this episode, there ended up being over 1,400 comments and 500,000 views on TikTok, which is like, whoa. Like, yeah. Right? When we saw that, I was blown away by that. And in this episode, you went on to say that women will keep past partners a secret. And they do this because they are afraid of being shamed by women and men.
Mm-hmm. And that shit exploded.
You know, it was for as far as a man goes, you know, it's like the secret that you wouldn't think that's the reason why women keep that secret.
But what was the comment that we saw the most? Because if I think about it, I think I can remember.
Yeah. So some of the most popular comments in this post were that the past is a predictor of the future. A lot of people were saying that. That's one of the main reasons why women would keep something like that a secret, because for some reason they're judged based on how many partners they had in the past. And it's fucked up because in many cases a man is not.
And I think in all cases a man is not. When it comes to his sexual partners.
I don't want to listen. I can't sit here and say that I know every single case in the world and that all of the cases men they're not judged by their, you know, how many past partners that they had. You know, I would hope to think that there are some women out there that think that over a certain number is too much and that they just wouldn't date a guy who's been with so many women. Okay. Just kind of.
I personally don't think that that's really. In my personal opinion, that's usually not a conversation happening with women to men, but that's my perspective.
And then another popular comment that was in the thread was that women keep this a secret because sleeping with multiple men actually devalues them as women.
Yeah, a lot of those comments were coming from men.
Yeah.
So going back to the comment where men, because it was men that were saying that the past is a predictor of the future, right?
Yeah, as far as I can remember, yes.
Okay, so if I think about that comment that we saw a lot, if I pull that out and look at it more as more of a statement that can be applied to a lot of different things. Because if you're going to say that someone's past is a prediction of what their future is going to look like, then fam, I would have been a fucking nobody if that's the case.
Yeah.
If you're going to sit back and say that because a woman has slept with X amount of men in her past, that in turn is going to make her, I guess, what? What is the prediction you think men are thinking? That's going to make her what?
It's going to make her just, okay, so from what I understand, it just makes her less valuable, right?
But in the comments, men were saying that it's predicting her future. So are they?
Oh, that she's like a hoe or something like that.
Yeah. So are they saying that she's gonna continue to be that type of person when she's in a relationship?
You know, I don't really understand this comment. I really don't, because I don't identify with it.
Either do I, because I think that is one of the most foolish things to say, that someone's past is automatically going to predict how their future is going to turn out. Because I came from a home where both of my parents were drug addicts. I was severely neglected. I was taken away by child services, amongst other shit that I experienced in my life. If that was going to be the determining factor for my future, when I tell you that I should have been in the gutter based on those statistics, because there was a study done on children with adverse childhood experiences, and there were 10 questions that they answered, and if you had you marked yourself for every question that applied to you, and the questions comprised of things like, have you ever been neglected? Have you ever experienced abuse? Have you ever experienced someone in your household with drug addiction? Whatever the case was, there was 10 questions, and every time you answered yes to a question, you gave yourself a marker. And if you had 4 or more markers, you were more likely to end up similar or very much or very closely to maybe some of the past traumas that you experienced. I had all 10. All 10. So if we're going to apply this comment, which is the past predicts your future, I would have been a drug addict that neglected my children and
that lived in Las Vegas as a prostitute.
Yeah,
so
literally.
Here's the funny thing, right? And I just want you to look at this real quick. See where I'm pointing at right here?
Yes,
okay.
I know.
All right, so I just want to point something out real quick, right? 2 things that I wanted to say on this. One, men have to understand that they're fucking being lied to, right? Because they're setting this standard of women can't have that many partners because it devalues them, right? Naturally, fucking women are going to lie. I mean, they're inclined to, not to be judged. This is why it's important for men to just fucking forget about it. It's irrelevant, because that sets up an environment where a woman is more likely to speak the truth. And you may actually get to know who she really is and what she's done, and make her feel comfortable in the space that she's in and not feeling like she has to be ashamed of herself. Secondly, men are so fucking competitive that they just have this desire to have something that the other man doesn't have, right? And because men value that so much, having a woman, which is the main thing, a lot of men do a lot of things in their fucking life, having a woman that another man hasn't had is like the fucking ultimate achievement. And they're doing it to themselves. They're doing this shit to themselves because they're creating this standard where it's like, oh, I have something that you never touched and you never fucking had, and that makes me a better man than you do. Then the woman that he's with is more inclined to lie to him. So in reality, he may think that he has a woman that maybe slept with 1 or 2 guys, but in reality, she might have fucking slept with 50, and she just lied to him because she doesn't want to be fucking judged or devalued. So many of you men who probably think that, you got something that to you is special is just a fucking lie, because you're too fucking, you're just too egotistical to accept the truth that, people live their lives the way they want to.
And I think that for a man to actually think that a woman is less valuable based on the partners that she had tells me what men really truly value. You're looking at this woman then as an object. You're not looking at her as a human being. You're not looking at her as someone that you want to make a partner with.
Yeah.
That's objectifying her by determining her value by her past partners. And furthermore, I find it so baffling that the conversation is not about, hey, if you have had past partners, can we talk about the safety that you have put forth when it comes to these interactions? I would be more concerned about that.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about getting tested. Because what difference does it make? She could have slept with one person and got something. Like, men are making this weird ass connection of what is really important when they're like, I feel like they're so lost. But I digress because
here's another
I could
thing
talk about
interesting,
this.
right? I think that a lot of men are overlooking the fact that there are many women out there that will go down on a man to please him in order not to have sex, right? Because it's just, they're not ready, but they kind of like him, and they're willing to do that. And there's a lot of women out there who've had way more penises in their mouths that they've had in their vaginas. And you may as well be married to one of these women who may have slept with like 2 guys, but had like 13 or 14 penises in her mouth throughout her lifetime. So really, what's important to you, right? You're not asking her how many dicks she sucked, right? No, you just want to know how many fucking people she slept with. Fucking get over it. Like, really. Like, fuck, man. This shit is
said, put that in your pipe and
you know what I'm saying? Like,
it.
this shit is so stupid sometimes. It really is.
So I think that there's one more video that you wanted to talk about, and then we're gonna wrap it up.
So the second video that was one of the more popular videos.
This is actually our most viral video.
Our most viral video was oh my god,
Are you lost?
Yeah.
Okay. So our most viral video that we've had on social media was over 3,000 comments, 1.2 million views, where I talk about how straight men are having gay sex to have more sex, and how straight women are having gay sex to find a connection.
Thank you. I don't even know what the fuck I just did. I got completely lost there.
It's the champagne.
It is the champagne.
So yeah,
goes right to your head.
Ivo was just like, dicks in the mouth. I don't know where I'm at.
That's it. I went off script. I fucking lost it.
That video went fucking ape shit viral. Yeah. But I will say the most common comment in all of the comments was, these people are bisexual.
Yeah, which is fucking like...
And the one that took the second place was, these people are... Or sexuality is fluid, but people are afraid to have this fluidity known to like society because they'll be shamed, whether it be because of their family doesn't accept it, society doesn't accept it, their religion doesn't accept it. So they do these things behind closed doors.
Yeah. And I think, didn't we even talk about in the episode that if a person has an experience with the opposite sex, that doesn't make them anything? I think that it was like there was a debate that if a person does experiment, that they're not straight anymore, that they're something else, and they have to be because they experimented. Yeah. And there was that whole argument going on as well.
Oh yes, I see what you're saying, because like, say for example, a young man experiments with maybe men in the beginning of his sexual journey, and then in the end realizes that, I enjoyed that, but I am actually sexually more attracted to women, and then chooses to be with women exclusively after that. That doesn't mean that he is gay
or bi or anything, or anything fluid or anything like
he
that.
Was, or she was, depending on the scenario,
exploring their sexuality.
They were exploring their sexuality, right? I would agree with you, but what I will say is this, and this is going to be controversial, and I don't give a shit. I think the world is filled with more queer people than there are straight people or cis hetero norm.
Yes,
because the amount of people that I have spoken to, men and women, that have said to me that they have found the opposite sex and same sex sexually attractive to them. I've heard that conversation so many times I can't even tell you. Yeah. And to me, it sounds very normal. I don't see anything wrong with someone finding either the same sex or the opposite sex, or trans or whatever it is. If you are attracted to this person and you want to have a sexual encounter with them, to me, I see nothing wrong with that. But for whatever the reason, there are other people that is frowned upon, and this is why people will hide these things. I think a lot of people in the comments felt like if a man interacts with another man and women, he's bisexual. I don't know if that makes him bisexual. I don't know if a woman interacting with another woman makes her bisexual. What I can tell you is I feel like that makes them sexually fluid. I don't even know if it's... I don't even know if we have a term for it, per se. I know there's some fluidity in there.
There's no reason to call it anything. But just call it fucking life.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm getting at with this, is that I don't even think that there is a term for what it is that can happen between men and women and women and women and man and man.
How did that go?
I think, woman and man, woman and woman, and man and man.
Woman.
I think that people are so used to putting names to things.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when you put a name to something, you lose what it really is. You have lost the essence of what it is that you are observing because you put a name to it. Yeah. So then no one is ever going to know it for anything different other than what the fuck it's been called. That is why I think one of our next topics that I really want to talk about is, what does it really mean to be masculine? What does it really mean to be feminine? Because these are words.
I think that'll be a great topic.
But on that note, we're actually at the end of this episode. That shit just fucking flew by.
As it always does.
And I always say this, and maybe it sounds corny, but I think about it in like Def Comedy Jam. He was like, "Thank you for coming out.
God bless you. Good night."
Yeah, right?
Russell Simmons.
I always enjoy having these conversations with you, even though sometimes I have to drag myself. I have to drag myself because I'm just probably like mentally exhausted.
That's just part of showing up.
Yeah.
You know?
But I always have such a good time having these conversations with you because they give me such perspective in ways that I never thought about it. And we always have a good laugh.
I think the best part about it is sometimes we end up saying shit that we didn't even know about each other.
Yeah.
They just come out in these episodes.
Yeah, and then we stop recording. I'm like,
wait a minute.
Bro.
What the fuck did you just say?
How did you just say that on the show and never told me that?
I think that's, for us, that's the best part of this show is that, you know, we realize that even though we've been together for 20 years and we've said so much to each other and have so many conversations with each other, we sit down and we do these shows and yet stuff comes up that we may have potentially not told each other. And I think it's great.
For sure. But cheers. Cheers to us.
Cheers to 100 episodes.
Cheers to 100
and
episodes. And many more. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, till next Friday.
Peace out.
Peace out.